to us. But it could go in a progressive direction. I mean, this uprising that that we have now, as the book shows, could go into more unionization, higher wages. I was out with folks who were trying to organize workers, Microsoft workers, high-tech workers against Microsoft. You could see universal health care. I know in this state, through the Progressive States Network, through Ned's work, folks are pushing a very important bill to expand health care. And hopefully everybody here will get in touch with the governor and ask her not to veto it. We could see an end to the war in Iraq. My column this week, which is going to be in newspapers on Friday, is called The Lamont Lesson. It's about how in 2006, I think that the lesson that Ned taught, and that all of you taught in working with Ned, to the country was, if you ignore what the pundits are saying, if you ignore what the wise old men of Washington were saying back then, and you can trace it, they were saying the Democratic Party should not have a position on the war. The lesson of Ned's campaign is, if you ignore that and you actually stand with people in a populist way, then you can actually win. I mean, that is absolutely clear. Post-election polls confirm that the Democratic Party won Congress because of its stance on the war, because its candidates ignored that advice coming out of Washington. And the war is a very, very clear populist issue. Some people ask, well, populism isn't usually economic issues. Populism, loosely defined, is basically, I think, a backlash politics confronting an establishment, an elite, whatever you want to call it, that is perceived to not be representing ordinary people. There is no better issue to exemplify that than the war. I mean, you have a country that is essentially unified on getting out of Iraq, and you have a government that continues to cut blank checks to stay in Iraq. The fight against the war is about as pristine a populist cause as there exists. And what I write in the column is that the Lamont lesson is being taught right now during this uprising, right now. You don't only have one Ned Lamont right now. You have 50 or 53 at last count candidates who have signed on to what's called a responsible plan to end the war. And telling the Democratic Party, here's what we're going to be about, and here's what you better be about. They're not taking orders on the issue of the war, they're giving. And that, to me, signals really a tectonic shift in where we're going. And what signals to me that we have a real chance to get this uprising into a progressive movement is a Gallup poll that I saw that traces people's confidence in specific institutions. I've made the 1980 comparison with how people were frustrated with government to today. There's one thing that has changed from then, and this should worry every conservative and every Republican Party operative. It's that people's confidence in government is not only down. There has been a precipitous decline in people's confidence in corporate America, banks, and basically the economic system as it exists. And for progressives who have been talking for years and years and years about the perils of deregulation, about the perils of wealth inequality, this bodes very well. And it bodes very poorly for a conservative movement and a Republican Party that's made themselves synonymous with those very institutions that the public has so precipitously lost confidence in since the late 1970s. So, just to give you a very quick overview of the book, and then we'll do some questions. The book goes from all over the country. I took about a year and a half to look at many of these uprisings that are happening and look at how the uprising is being expressed in different ways. One of the major points of the book is that we are led to believe by the media that the only way to be involved in politics or in change in this country is to be involved in the presidential election. No matter when you turn on the TV, I don't care if you're watching Hardball or MSNBC or the evening news, every single story about politics, no matter what the actual issue they're debating, they're telling you the only thing that's important is the presidential race. This book shows that that's absolutely untrue. From the people who are trying to unionize workers at Microsoft in Seattle, to the Working Families Party here in Connecticut and in New York, and I want to thank them for their help getting folks out to this event too, to folks in the U.S. Senate who were elected on a populist platform, even to, again, to the Minutemen. I mean, this is a populist moment that is being expressed very far away from presidential politics. And it should say to everybody that the way to really make change is not only just to go vote in a presidential election. Get involved in your state legislature. Unionize your workplace. Talk to the people in your community. The internet. Use the internet to organize people in your community. I mean, there has never been a tool more accessible and useful as the internet to actually organize yourself. We are self-empowered. If we leave that on the table, if you will, if we don't take advantage of that, we're leaving power on the table, and that power will be used. And I think that was proven in this campaign. I mean, I have an example in the book from Ned's campaign. I thought the Family, Friends, and Neighbors program, you know, when I saw that, to review, that was basically, I'll probably butcher the technology behind it, but basically it allowed anybody outside of Connecticut or inside Connecticut to write a letter to somebody they knew in Connecticut and have it be sent out from the campaign. It was their letter on the campaign stationery, and it helped basically build from scratch a major database that was one of the major engines of that campaign. So we have a huge amount of tools to take advantage of. We can take advantage of it and wield real power far away from the presidential race. Again, I don't want to harp on it too much, but you have a health care bill in this state that's on the table right now. It's on the governor's desk right now. That would be an enormous leap forward for this state and for the country. So don't get distracted by, you know, you're going to hear, you know, Hillary this and Obama that and McCain this. You know, keep your eye on the ball in a place like this. I mean, there is a real opportunity right here. And I should remind, CCAG, who sponsored this event, they're going to be passing out sign-up sheets to if you want more information on that healthcare campaign. So I'll stop talking.